This is the Dive Into Discovery podcast, where curiosity meets insight, and every conversation uncovers a new layer of understanding.
Okay, so get this. You share a significant chunk of your DNA with someone who vanished from Earth thousands of years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, we're talking about Neanderthals, and, they weren't just some primitive species from the distant past. They were sophisticated humans who thrived in Europe and Asia for hundreds of thousands of years.
It is incredible.
Yeah, and you sent over a really interesting stack of articles and research on these fascinating relatives of ours.
I hope you found it interesting.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm ready to deep dive into what exactly happened to them.
I think that's a great place to start.
Yeah, for sure.
What's really fascinating about Neanderthals is they challenge our assumptions about human evolution.
Yeah.
You know, they were skilled tool makers and hunters. They even had rituals like burying their dead.
Right.
Which suggests they had complex thoughts and beliefs.
Yeah, very interesting.
But they disappeared from the fossil record around 40,000 years ago.
Wow.
Just as our own species, Homo sapiens, was spreading across the globe.
So that timing makes you wonder, did we have something to do with their disappearance?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
One theory suggests that Homo sapiens outcompeted Neanderthals.
Okay.
We had more advanced tools, allowing us to hunt a wider variety of animals and gather more resources. Our diets were more diverse, too.
Right.
Which would have given us a survival advantage.
Yeah.
Especially during times of scarcity.
For sure.
Imagine, if you could eat anything from berries to bison, while your neighbor could only eat mammoth.
Right.
Who do you think would fare better if mammoths became scarce?
Well, yeah.
Right.
That adaptability would certainly have come in handy, especially during the last ice age.
Absolutely.
That was a rough time for everyone, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The Ice Age brought rapid temperature swings
Oh, yeah.
that severely disrupted food sources and habitats.
Right.
It would put immense pressure on both Neanderthals and Homo sapiens.
But the sources suggest that Neanderthals were hit harder, right?
Yes, and this is where the idea of ecological niches comes into play.
Okay.
Think of it like this. Each species occupies a specific role in the environment, kind of like a job.
Gotcha.
When two species compete for the same resources in the same niche, one will inevitably lose out.
Right.
Neanderthals were incredibly well adapted to their environment until that environment changed drastically.
Right.
And their smaller, more spread out populations meant that they had less genetic diversity.
Okay.
It's like having a small isolated village versus a bustling city.
Which one is better equipped to handle a crisis or adapt to change?
Right. Less diversity means less resilience.
Exactly.
Okay, so you got Homo sapiens with our flexible diets and Neanderthals struggling with climate chaos. But the story takes another turn, doesn't it?
It does.
It turns out that things weren't just a case of us versus them.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
This is where things get really interesting.
Genetic analysis has revealed something truly remarkable.
What's that?
Modern humans with non-African ancestry carry 1-4% Neanderthal DNA.
Hold on.
Yeah.
You're saying we're part Neanderthal.
Precisely.
Wow.
This indicates that interbreeding wasn't just possible, it actually happened.
Huh.
And it probably wasn't a one-time event.
Right.
Interbreeding likely happened multiple times.
Wow.
In different places and at different times.
Okay.
Imagine what those encounters must have been like.
Yeah.
Two groups of humans with different appearances, traditions, and ways of life meeting for the first time.
That paints quite a picture.
It does.
Did they share stories?
Yeah.
Exchange tools? Or maybe even clash over resources?
It's possible.
It's almost like a prehistoric soap opera.
Indeed.
Yeah.
The reality was likely a complex mix of cooperation and competition.
Right.
We have to be careful about making assumptions about these interactions.
Yeah, for sure.
We can't just paint a single picture of what happened across an entire continent.
So we have competition for resources,
Yeah.
climate change putting everyone under pressure,
Right.
and now we're throwing interbreeding into the mix. It's starting to look like a perfect storm brewing for the Neanderthals.
We're catching on.
Yeah.
We're talking about multiple threats converging on one population.
Right.
Another factor to consider is disease.
Oh, okay.
Homo sapiens migrating out of Africa might have brought new diseases that Neanderthals had no immunity to.
Oh, wow.
Imagine a new flu strain hitting a population with no prior exposure.
Yeah.
It could be devastating.
It's almost as if, even if we weren't actively wiping them out, all these factors combined made it impossible for them to survive.
You've hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Neanderthals weren't inferior, just less fortunate.
Okay.
And they were far more sophisticated than we once thought.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, their story doesn't end with their disappearance.
Really?
They left a lasting legacy.
Okay.
And not just in the fossil record.
You mean those little bits of Neanderthal DNA we're carrying around?
It's exactly.
Well, what does that mean for us today?
That's what we'll explore next.
Okay.
It turns out that those Neanderthal genes aren't just passive passengers in our genome.
Right.
They have a real impact on who we are.
I'm really curious about that.
Let's dive in.
So we just learned that many of us carry Neanderthal DNA.
Yeah.
But it's hard to grasp what that really means.
Mm-hmm.
Is it like having a distant relative you never met, or does it have a real impact on our lives today?
It's more than just a family tie.
Okay.
Researchers have discovered that specific Neanderthal genes influence a wide range of traits in modern humans,
Like what?
from our immune systems to our skin and hair color.
So those genes are actively doing things,
Absolutely.
not just hanging out in our DNA.
Not at all.
Wow.
For instance, some studies suggest that Neanderthals passed on genes related to skin pigmentation,
Okay.
possibly an adaptation to the lower levels of sunlight in Europe and Asia.
Oh, interesting.
So if you have pale skin that burns easily, you might have your Neanderthal ancestors to thank.
Yeah.
That makes me wonder about those immune system genes you mentioned.
Yeah.
How do they affect us?
This is where things get even more fascinating.
Okay.
Some Neanderthal genes actually boost our immune response to certain pathogens.
Oh, wow.
It's like having an extra line of defense against certain infections.
So it's like they gave us a genetic shield.
It is.
That's pretty cool.
But like any shield, it has two sides.
Oh.
While those genes were probably beneficial in the past, they're now linked to an increased risk of autoimmune disorders in modern humans.
Oh, so it's a trade-off.
Yeah.
Protection against some threats, but vulnerability to others.
Right.
That really highlights the complex relationship between our genes and our environment, doesn't it?
You're spot on.
Yeah.
And we're just scratching the surface of what those Neanderthal genes might be doing.
Really?
Research is ongoing, but we've already found links to things like our metabolism and sleep patterns.
Wow. It's amazing to think that these ancient genes are still shaping our lives today.
It really changes how we think about Neanderthals. They weren't just a separate species that vanished.
Right.
They're part of who we are.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, what if Neanderthals hadn't disappeared? How would our world be different if they had survived alongside us?
That's a mind-blowing question.
It is.
Imagine walking down the street and seeing someone with those distinct Neanderthal features.
Yeah.
The strong brow ridge, the stocky build.
Right.
Would we see them as different or just another variation of human?
It's a question that hinges on those early interactions between our two species. The evidence suggests a spectrum of possibilities, from peaceful exchanges to conflict and competition.
Right. Were we trading tools and sharing stories, or battling it out for territory?
If it was the former, perhaps we'd see a world where Neanderthal knowledge and culture blended with our own.
Oh, wow.
Imagine the innovations that could have arisen from combining their practicality and our creativity.
It's fascinating to consider. Maybe Neanderthals would have thrived in certain environments like colder regions.
Right.
Thanks to their robust physique and adaptations.
That's an interesting thought.
Yeah.
They could have become invaluable partners in exploration and settlement.
Okay, but what if those early encounters were less harmonious?
Yeah.
Could we have ended up in a world divided along lineage lines, constantly competing for resources?
It's certainly possible.
Right.
The sources hint at differences in social structures and perhaps even cognitive abilities between Neanderthals and Homo sapiens.
Okay.
Those differences could have led to misunderstandings, prejudice, and conflict.
That paints a less optimistic picture.
It does.
Would we be talking about all-out war or something more like tense standoffs?
It's hard to say for sure, but even if it wasn't constant warfare, imagine the social and ethical dilemmas.
Oh, yeah.
Would Neanderthals have the same rights as Homo sapiens?
Right.
Would interbreeding be encouraged or discouraged?
Interesting.
These questions are complex and touch upon issues we still grapple with today.
It's a lot to unpack.
It is.
But even with the potential for conflict,
Yeah.
wouldn't there be benefits to having another intelligent species around?
Absolutely.
Like what?
Think about the potential for collaboration and knowledge sharing.
Okay.
Two different perspectives on problem solving.
Right.
Different approaches to innovation.
Yeah.
The possibilities are endless.
It's like having a built-in think tank constantly pushing us to think differently and see the world in new ways.
Exactly. And remember, we're already benefiting from their genetic legacy.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine the potential if we had access to their full range of knowledge and skills.
It really makes you rethink the concept of extinction. It's not just about losing a species. It's about losing a whole world of possibilities.
That's a profound insight.
Yeah.
The disappearance of the Neanderthals serves as a reminder of the interconnectedness of all life on Earth.
Right.
And how the loss of even one species can have a ripple effect across ecosystems and even time.
So, regardless of whether our relationship would have been peaceful or fraught with tension, one thing is certain. A world with Neanderthals would be a very different place.
Indeed. And while this what-if scenario is fascinating, it ultimately underscores a crucial point.
What's that?
The fragility of our own existence. Homo sapiens might seem like the dominant species today, but the Neanderthal story reminds us that even the most successful species can vanish.
It's a humbling thought.
It is.
What lessons can we learn from their fate to help ensure our own survival?
That's a question we'll explore in our final part. But first, let's delve deeper into the Neanderthal legacy that resides within us all.
Okay.
We've established that many of us carry their DNA.
Right.
But what does that mean in a practical sense?
Yeah.
How does it affect our lives today?
So we spent this deep dive exploring the world of Neanderthals, their disappearance, and their surprising genetic legacy.
A lot to unpack there.
It really is. But it feels like there's a bigger question lingering.
Okay.
What can we learn from their fate to ensure our own species doesn't meet a similar end?
It's a crucial question.
Yeah.
Especially when we consider the challenges humanity faces today.
Right.
Climate change, loss of biodiversity, emerging diseases.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's like the echoes of the past are whispering a warning.
The Neanderthals were incredibly successful for hundreds of thousands of years.
They were.
Right.
Yes.
They were masters of their environment, skilled hunters, capable of complex thought, yet they couldn't adapt to the rapid changes happening around them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It highlights a crucial point.
What's that?
Adaptability isn't just about physical strength or technology.
Okay.
It's about flexibility, diversity, and a willingness to learn and evolve.
So are you saying we need to become chameleons?
Well,
blending into any environment thrown our way?
In a sense, yes.
Okay.
We need to cultivate resilience, both individually and as a species.
Yeah.
And the Neanderthal story offers some guidance on how to do that.
Okay. I'm all ears.
Right.
What concrete lessons can we learn from their fate?
First and foremost, we need to recognize the interconnectedness of all things.
Okay.
Neanderthals weren't wiped out by a single event, but rather a combination of factors. Climate change, disrupting their environment, and food sources. Competition for resources with Homo sapiens, and possibly even new diseases brought by us.
Oh, wow.
It was a perfect storm.
And today we face a similar situation.
We do.
Climate change isn't isolated.
Right.
It's linked to biodiversity loss, food security, social justice.
It's all connected.
Yeah.
Precisely.
Yeah.
We can't address these challenges in isolation.
Right.
We need to think systemically.
Okay.
Understanding that our actions have ripple effects we might not foresee.
That's a powerful lesson.
It is.
Recognizing that interconnectedness. What else can we learn from our Neanderthal cousins?
Their story emphasizes the importance of diversity.
Okay.
The Neanderthals lived in relatively small, spread-out groups.
Right.
Which meant limited genetic diversity.
Yeah.
It's like having a small toolbox with only a few tools.
Okay.
When a new problem arises, you might not have the right tool for the job.
I see.
Diversity, whether genetic, cultural, or ecological, is crucial for resilience.
Oh.
It gives us more options, more ways to adapt and respond to challenges.
So embracing the richness of human experience and different ways of thinking is key to our survival.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Our differences make us stronger, allowing us to learn from each other and find innovative solutions to complex problems.
Okay. Interconnectedness and diversity.
Yeah.
Any other wisdom to be gleaned from the Neanderthal playbook?
Their story also hints at the power of cooperation.
Okay.
While there's evidence of competition between Neanderthals and Homo sapiens, there's also evidence of interbreeding and cultural exchange.
Yeah, we talked about that.
We weren't always at each other's throats.
We were capable of finding common ground, maybe even learning from each other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a crucial lesson for us today.
Okay.
Facing global challenges requires cooperation, not isolationism.
Right.
We need to share knowledge, resources, and technology to find solutions that benefit all of humanity.
It's a reminder that we're stronger together, more resilient when we work together.
You got it.
Yeah.
The Neanderthal story isn't just a tale of extinction.
Right.
It's a reflection of our own potential and vulnerabilities.
It's a reminder that we're not invincible,
Yeah.
but we also possess the capacity for incredible resilience and innovation.
And by embracing interconnectedness, diversity, and cooperation, we can chart a course toward a more sustainable and equitable future.
Okay.
A future where we honor the legacy of those who came before us by learning from their wisdom and avoiding their mistakes.
It's amazing to think that this deep dive into the Neanderthals ultimately brings us back to ourselves.
It really does.
To understanding who we are and what we're capable of.
It's a humbling realization, isn't it?
It is.
That we're all part of this grand tapestry of life.
Yeah.
Woven together across millennia.
Wow.
And the choices we make today will determine the patterns that emerge tomorrow.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's take those lessons to heart. Let's choose wisely, embrace our differences, and work together to weave a future where humanity not only survives, but thrives.
To the Neanderthals, our long-lost cousins, thank you for the lessons you've taught us.
And to our listeners, thanks for joining us on this incredible journey.
It was a good one.
We hope it sparked your curiosity and given you a new perspective on our place in the world.
Until next time.
Yes.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.
What did you think of this week's episode? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to join us next time as we dive even deeper. And as always, stay curious, because you never know what discoveries are just around the corner.